right before we went on the air, the newly renamed Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, spoke to U.S. military leaders from around the world to lay out his very retro vision for our armed forces. Watch.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. We are done with that. It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits.
Why is he obsessed with fat?
Yeah, and fitness and...
Anyway, this was just the opening act because Trump took the stage after he did, and I think he's still talking right now. But take a look.
If you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. We went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? I thought it would be met with fury on the left. But they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. They've had it. They've had it with Trump. You don't have to be that good with nuclear. You could have 1/20th what you have now and still do the damage. You can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are two N words, and you can't use either of them.
So how do you think the highest-ranking U.S. military officials feel about taking orders from a reality star and a former talk show host? I mean, I could do it, according to this.
I won't necessarily speak to that, but I'm very lost on the fact that it seems like it's become a Republican Party position out of nowhere that the U.S. military is weak. We're the greatest fighting force in the history of mankind. U.S. troops are deployed in over 100 countries around the world. We are also a deterring force. The idea of American military strength is that you avoid having to get into wars by being as strong as we are. And I know that people think it's weak or it's woke to say that our diversity is our strength, but the thing that's so unique about the United States, we are the most diverse nation on earth, and we have the most diverse military on earth, socioeconomically, racially, religiously.
So what's this about?
All of these people from different backgrounds come together and fight for the American values. So I don't understand why we have to denigrate the military to try to talk about doing better. And I would also mention, we did have a recruiting crisis, but in 2024 and 2025, the military met recruitment goals, which is huge. Final thing, I did not like that Pete Hegseth, who did serve his country, but chose to denigrate the service of others. He name-checked 3 generals, 2 that I served with.
And fat-shaming, big time.
2 that I served with, General McKenzie and General Milley, both of whom have a combined nearly 100 years of service. General Milley served for 40 years in the military. You don't need to attack other people's service to make yourself feel
So why
better.
do you think they're doing this? I mean, there's always an ulterior motive for all that crazy stuff.
Well, that's the major question, and if it has anything to do with the recruiting lull, they probably just made it worse. They called over 800 generals from their stations all around the world, demanding that they all come here. Now, why would you also televise that all of our generals have left their post?
And are in one place.
Yeah, or in one place. Like, I don't get it. And then there's an estimated $6 million that we... taxpayers, we paid for their travel, lodging, and security when we all learned a few years ago you can do it all on Zoom. So I don't know, because some of the messages were, as Joy mentioned, don't be fat, shave your beard, go back to hazing people. You know, I know...
Against each other.
Well, hazing the younger people, but knowing military, one of its most beautiful things, and the reason it's probably always been the strongest in the world, is there's a rank and file. My dad went to Valley Forge Military Academy. He served in Vietnam. There's a pride to their service and their rank and file. These are the tip top of the military line, listening to someone give kind of a knockoff TED Talk about something, and I still haven't figured out what it is. I think it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and do they know the government might be shutting down tonight, and we are paying money to make it a mandatory meeting to hear from Pete Hegseth?
Yeah.
That part.
I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
It was really a bizarre thing. He started talking about woke DEI policies. By the way, there are no gender quotas in the military. By the way, he fired more than a dozen military leaders, many of them people of color and women. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Charles Brown Jr., who is African American.
Yeah.
He fired the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti. I don't understand the sort of hypocrisy of firing these people, having all these people meet together and then denigrating them.
But did you look at it? They're looking at him like he has two heads.
Well, they didn't applaud the beginning of that clip
Yeah.
you just saw.
Yeah, they
The
did
president
not.
is President Trump said, if you want to applaud, you applaud. If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, and then you heard the rest. There goes your rank in your future.
But by the way, every one of these men and women in this room has been taught the entire time they've been in service that it is apolitical. You're not right, left, you're not red, blue, you're not Republican, Democrat. They don't show their politics because what you're doing on the battlefield is above
Right.
politics. So they're not going to applaud, they're not going to cheer, they're not going to boo. They're going to show up and listen to the commander-in-chief. But to Sarah's point, I've literally sat in the VTC, like video conference room in the Pentagon. We could have done this a lot easier and a lot cheaper and talked to people all around the world.
Yeah, come on.
What was the reason
All right.
for it?
I think it's supposed to be a show of strength for Hegseth.
Maybe it's a distraction from, the Epstein files.